Good evening. Welcome to the murder room. Now, this story I'm about to tell you is about a very mysterious crime that's still leaving people wondering about this mystery to this day. Now, this room is home to the murder of one Mrs. Borden. Mrs. Borden was last seen alive around 9 a.m. by her very infamous daughter named Lizzie Borden and a maid named Bridget. Around the time of Mrs. Borden's death, her sister, Emma, was out of town. Lizzie was supposedly downstairs folding some handkerchiefs. Mr. Borden was out in the Fall River along with her Uncle John. Now, Mrs. Borden was actually killed in the exact same room as her Uncle John stayed in the night before. Now, we don't really know the mental state of Mrs. Borden before she was killed, whether she was standing, kneeling, facing the killer, or she was surprised from behind for the attack. But what we do know is that there are no signs of struggle, there's no defensive wounds, which is very peculiar if you ask me. And she was hit 19 times with an axe. One above her left ear on the left-hand side of her head, one in between her shoulder blades 4 inches deep into her back, and the other 17 injuries to the back of her head and her neck. Now, when they finally discovered Mrs. Borden's body, she was face down on the floor in a pool of her very own coagulated blood. Now, from this blood and the stomach contents of Mrs. Borden, they determined her death was around 9:30 a.m., a full hour and a half before the death of Mr. Borden. We'll save that for a story for next time. Now, in the photo, hanging in the dining room where the autopsy was performed, you can see Mrs. Borden on the floor in her pool of her own blood. And in the mirror, you can see the camera that captured all this mystery. Now, because of this mystery, this room, also known as a John Morse room, which was dubbed the murder room over the years, is the most requested overnight stay at the Lizzie Borden Axe Murder House and Museum. Now, before we go, here's a little bit of a morbid fun fact for you. Did you know that the crime scene photos taken for this scene were the first crime scene photos ever taken in the US? Well, now you do.